Welcome to Moonlight Recaps, where we specialize in sci-fi movie recaps, film recaps, and do an in-depth analysis to give you story explanations, movie explanations, and full movie retellings. Today's movie recap is Screamers. Let's dive in. The movie begins with a robotic voice narrating the grim state of the future. Planet Earth has expanded its reach, colonizing other planets for its own gain. It is the year 2078, and Sirius 6b is one such colony. The primary resource here is beryllium, a powerful yet highly polluting and radioactive material. However, due to reckless mining practices, Sirius 6b has transformed from a fertile world into a barren wasteland. The N.E.B Corporation, a powerful monopoly, controls all mining operations on this planet and throughout the solar system. Opposing them is the Alliance, a coalition of labor unions and scientists who strive to prevent N.E.B from further devastating the planet. This conflict has sparked a war on Sirius 6b, igniting a new Cold War back on Earth. The war has resulted in the deaths of thousands of civilians, who also suffer from the pervasive radioactive clouds caused by beryllium extraction. We see a desolate mining town, now resembling a dusty ghost town. Miners pass the time playing for cigarettes. Through CCTV, they spot someone stumbling closer who looks like a terrified N.E.B soldier. Lieutenant Landowska questions why he's moving without trying to hide and calls Captain Joe Henderson. As the soldier pauses, something shifts beneath the sand. He fires at it, and suddenly, the dusty plain erupts with underground creatures attacking him. The small, round robotic screamers emerge, emitting ear-splitting noises, and dismember him limb by limb. One soldier inside the bunker vomits at the sight. The lieutenant and the soldier try to reassure themselves that they are on the good side. When Captain Henderson arrives, he notes that without the screamers, they would have lost the war long ago. He ponders why a lone soldier was so exposed to both enemies and screamers. The lieutenant mentions the soldier held something, prompting the captain to investigate. Despite fears it might be a bomb, Henderson goes alone to retrieve the cylinder, relying on his high-tech wristband that protects him from screamers. As the screamers drag the soldier's body parts underground, the captain shoots one to retrieve the cylinder. The cylinder contains a message for the Alliance. The movie shifts to the bunker. Captain Henderson seeks a conversation with Chuck Elberack. Chuck opens the cylinder, revealing a message from Richard Cooper, a commander of the N.E.B Army, proposing peace negotiations, and two officers should meet to discuss it. Chuck suspects it might be a ploy to deceive them. Then, Joe instructs Communications Officer McDonald to send a message to Earth for advice. McDonald mentions an urgent message from a commercial transport requesting permission to land, but Joe wants to know the emergency first. The cylinder also contains a map of the N.E.B commanding offices. They ponder why the N.E.B, silent for so long without even radio communication, now wants to talk. Through virtual reality, Secretary Green, a high-ranking commanding officer, explains that the N.E.B has requested a ceasefire, presenting an opportunity for world peace. It is revealed that beryllium has been found on another planet, Triton 4, this time without signs of radioactivity. The radioactivity interferes with Green's message, causing it to cut off. Frustrated, Joe swears, remarking that Morse code used to be more reliable. Meanwhile, Joe and Chuck speculate that if the war had escalated on Earth, a ceasefire would have come much sooner. As radiation approaches, the soldiers light special red cigarettes, which is their only defense against the toxic air. The ground trembles violently, buildings collapse, and many people perish in the chaos. During this, a falling airship, meant to build bombs, turns out to be a nuclear reactor, adding to the devastation. In the midst of the turmoil, a person is rescued from the debris. Suddenly, screamers emerge to collect the bodies of the dead. These machines, initially created to eliminate enemies, have evolved into ruthless hunters of all humans, making them adversaries of both the Alliance and N.E.B. They detect human pulses, but the soldiers' wristbands trick them into believing the wearer is already dead. We see Rogers, who allows Michael Ace Jefferson to speak with the captain. Chuck investigates the screamers and discovers that, even without brains, they exhibit aggressive impulse reactions. He realizes their programming has been altered, making them even more dangerous. Jefferson is horrified to learn he is the sole survivor of 38. The captain is deeply concerned about the nuclear reactor meant to produce more weapons, and Ace is unaware of its presence. He reveals that Green is dead, there is no ceasefire, and he is headed to Tritum 4, where another war rages. It is revealed that the Alliance command killed Green, shattering the captain's hopes for peace. However, Chuck still believes in Green's message. Meanwhile, Joe suspects they are being kept on Sirius 6B with lies to keep their families on Earth content. However, Cooper and the N.E.B. prefer they remain forgotten on this desolate planet. Determined to take action, the captain decides to go to the N.E.B. headquarters to negotiate their own ceasefire. Chuck offers to go, but Joe insists on taking Ace, leaving Chuck to become first in command in case another starship falls from the sky. With this plan, they hope to create their own path to peace amidst the ongoing chaos. Chuck bids farewell to Joe and Ace as they set off. The planet is icy and snowy, with constant winds howling through the desolate landscape. Joe assures Chuck that he will communicate every 4 hours. If they miss 2 check-ins, it means they are dead. Joe and Ace soon reach an abandoned beryllium factory. Ace is told that he will know if the red cigarettes are working if he doesn't die. Ace admits his ignorance about the war, while the captain, weary of the endless conflict, expresses his desire to finally find peace. During this, a screamer passes by them undetected, and Ace shoots another screamer feasting on a huge rat. Joe explains that screamers are scavengers and quick learners. Ace wonders if they are cybernetic or alive, but Joe reveals that no one knows how many screamers exist or where they might be, as the Alliance's creation has grown beyond their control. Suddenly, they drop to the ground when they spot someone. A child's voice breaks the silence, asking if he can come with them. A terrified boy stands before them, clutching a teddy bear. He claims to be living in the ruins, and though he is vague about how he survives, Joe gives him a food ration and promises to pick him up on their way back. Despite Joe's initial hesitation, Ace convinces him to let the boy join them. That night, as they sit around a bonfire, they learn the boy's name, David Edward Deering. He shares that his parents died in the blasts. Meanwhile, Joe checks in with Chuck, who mentions a new recruit, finding it a bit odd but acceptable. During this, a screamer approaches during the night. Joe, who is playing with David's teddy bear, realizes that Ace, supposed to be on guard, was distracted by listening to erotic disco music and failed to hear the screamer. Joe kills the screamer, which looks different and more animalistic than usual. As they continue their journey, Ace's incessant talking prompts Joe to tell him to be quiet. They cross a frozen lake where they are detected by someone coughing, a sign they've reached the N.E.B. headquarters. Suddenly, this person opens fire, and David is hit. To their horror, David reveals his true nature as a robot, screaming like a screamer until Ace destroys him. Shaken by the revelation, Joe and Ace realize the screamers have evolved to mimic humans, adding a new layer of danger to their mission. The encounter leaves them both disturbed and cautious as they approach the N.E.B. headquarters, uncertain of what other horrors might await them. Inside the N.E.B. bunker, soldiers inform them that screamers now tag along, only attacking once inside. After this, Joe shows them the peace negotiation message from Richard Cooper. Meanwhile, Joe contacts Chuck to report finding a new type of screamer that looks like a child, cautioning not to let anyone in. Unfortunately, Chuck struggles to hear properly. During this, Ace and Becker exchange tense glances, but their interaction is interrupted by Jessica Hansen, who is the boss there. She is more concerned with drinking real scotch than synthetic substitutes, and has a history of dealing in the black market. Jessica offers to guide Joe to the command building if he promises to take her back to Earth. Joe warns her that Earth isn't much better, with a new war on Triton 4. He admires her beauty as she washes herself in front of him, and she recounts how an army of Davids killed the N.E.B. soldiers. It is obvious that Ace and Becker dislike each other. Ace discovers she has a plutonium rocket, but Joe refuses to use it. They navigate through underground corridors, with rats scaring Ross, one of the soldiers. There they find a dead body, but press on. Then they reach the command center, where blood is everywhere, and Ross becomes hysterical. Joe suspects Cooper would be there if alive and tries to communicate, but the system is faulty. During this, they encounter a small screamer kangaroo that connects to the main computer, gathers information, and leaves. To deal with this, Ross makes some noise, attracting the screamer, which he shoots, damaging the computer units. Suddenly, a voice asks if he can go with them now. Hearing this, Joe instructs Ace to evacuate everyone. Alone, Joe checks the computer for screamer designs, and it is revealed that Type 1 is the rat kangaroo, Type 3 is the David. He has no time to find Type 2 before Ace returns. They take a lift to Becker, who explains that Type 2 mimics a wounded soldier. Hearing this, Ross is suspected of being Type 2, and Becker kills him. However, Joe examines the knife and finds blood, realizing Ross is innocent. Then, Jessica accuses Becker of being Type 2. Joe decides to leave, and Jessica questions whether Joe's men would let survivors in if he died. Joe hopes Chuck will be smart enough not to. As they approach the bunker, Chuck's communication is distorted. An army of Davids emerges, and they set them on fire, launching the nuclear rocket at the bunker. During this, Becker is wounded, screams for help, and reveals himself as a screamer, killing Ace. Becker claims he is devoid of human emotions. Joe, confirming Ace's death, vows to survive. Meanwhile, Jessica, fearing death, is reassured by Joe about a way off the planet. They reach the Alamo, an escape pod controlled by Joe's biological data. As they prepare, Chuck attacks Joe, revealing himself as a screamer, but Joe defeats him. Jessica, witnessing the fight, discovers only one can escape. Joe suggests a coin toss but rigs it, intending for Jessica to leave. As they kiss, a second Jessica appears and fights the first, revealing herself as a screamer. The first Jessica wins but dies, professing she learned to love. After this, Joe escapes in the pod, throwing away the screamer-detecting wristband. As he departs, the teddy bear starts to move, hinting it's a screamer. This is where the movie ends. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps.